Hello and welcome. Today let's focus on conditional type 2. This type of conditional is also known as the second, hypothetical, or unreal conditional. It is used when we refer to something that is or is perceived to be impossible or contrary to the fact. That is, at the moment of speaking, the action or the event is impossible. The form of conditional type 2 is the following. In the if clause, there is a verb in a past tense, whereas in the main clause, there is would plus be infinitive. Conditional type 2 can refer either to present or future. So here's an example of conditional type 2 referring to present. If he didn't annoy her that much, she would spend more time with him. So what's the fact? What's the reality? He annoys her, so that's why she doesn't spend much time with him. So the event of her spending, or action of her spending more time with him, is impossible. Now, here's an example of conditional type 2 referring to future. If I got an invitation, I'd go there right away. Again, the action is impossible. Why? Because I don't have the invitation. From my experience, I can say that the use of past tense in the if clause and would plus be infinitive in the main clause can sometimes mislead you into believing that it refers to past. No, it's not quite so. It refers either to present or future. Now, most probably you remember that conditional type 1 also refers to future. So then what's the difference between conditional type 1 and conditional type 2 if they both refer to future? Most probably you have already understood. Definitely is how real we think the action or the event is to happen. Let's have a look at this example. If it gets colder tonight, I will turn on the heating. It means there is a real possibility. However, if I say, if it got colder tonight, I would turn on the heating. Already, it expresses, or it doesn't express, a real possibility. Now let's get to the use of the verb to be in the if clause. So its form is going to be were. Moreover, there are people who would say that it's totally incorrect to use was in the if clause. So that's why in English it is preferred to say, if I were at home, I would look for more information. Or there is a famous poem starting in the following way: if I were a bird, I wouldn't like to live in a cage where I couldn't be free. Interestingly enough, some course materials introduce if I were you idiomatically, meant to give advice in English. So if I were you, I would make an appointment and see a doctor. Or if I were you, I would pay more attention to conditionals in English. The form of should is also worth paying attention to. Some people would prefer to use should after I and we in the main clause instead of would. I shouldn't be able to get any sleep at all if I lived next to that noise. Should is also used in commercial or official correspondence. I should be grateful for an early reply to my letter. Another interesting form, let's say, is where plus infinitive. So some people would prefer to use where plus infinitive in the if clause to make the action even more hypothetical or the statement more tentative, hence more polite. So, for example, if the water were to rise above the flood barrier, there would be absolutely nothing we could do to save the city. Or if you were to have a few minutes free, I'd really appreciate talking to you. Finally, I would like to draw your attention to the case when if can be left out altogether. So when where is used after if, right, it is possible to invert where and the subject and leave out if altogether. So instead of saying if he were really ill, I would be more sympathetic, it is possible to say in English, were he really ill, I would be more sympathetic. Or another example, were you to accept my offer, I would personally oversee the agreement. So this is what I intended to share with you concerning conditional type 2 in English. Now it's your turn to practice and make it perfect. If I were you, I would definitely do so.